What's up, everybody? It's a man of low moral fiber here. My name's Luke, and in this video we're going to be taking another look at the Elephant Gun as part of my Does It Suck series. The Elephant Gun is a unique Jakobs sniper rifle that is available in the 3rd campaign DLC, Sir Hammerlock's Big Game Hunt. It drops from the mini-boss Arizona. Like many other weapons, this weapon received a significant boost as a part of the community patch, and I'm really excited for the buffs that the Elephant Gun got. Without the community patch, I said that the Elephant Gun is the most disappointing weapon in the game, because it definitely sucks, which is a huge letdown because I like the idea behind the weapon, or at least the design that I feel like the creators of this weapon were trying to achieve, which is a very high base damage sniper rifle that is super rewarding to get critical hits on, because it should do the most damage, in my opinion, on a single shot, a single straight critical hit of any sniper rifle. However, it doesn't actually do that, and so it's never really that rewarding to use. And in combination with that, it's super punishing because it has that super low fire rate, reload speed, and magazine size. And because of that, using this weapon is pretty cumbersome compared to your average sniper. And so it's definitely more punishing to use than your regular sniper, and it's never really more rewarding to use because its base damage really isn't that special. And we'll take a look at why that is here real quick. We're starting by looking at the unpatched version of the weapon, and we're going to see how it does here against this first loader in the Washburn Refinery. We'll go ahead and knock his gun arm off there. That should make us pretty safe. There is an interesting quirk about this weapon, which you're seeing me adjust for now, where it doesn't aim where you would think it would aim based off the top of that weapon. And you can actually see where the crosshair actually is in Deception. We'll get to that in just a minute. Still, it's looking like it's going to take 8 shots to kill this enemy, 8 critical hits, and that's with, rising shot and kill confirmed going there. So, pretty poor for the weapon. It's not a good showing to start. Let's take a look at why the damage on this weapon is rather unimpressive. You'll notice that, compared to some other guns, it definitely has a higher base damage, but it doesn't really work out that way practically. And then in combination with that, the super low fire rate makes it very almost unusable with 0 skill Critical Ascension, which is a very, very potent skill, and so that only works against the weapon as well. Let's go ahead and see how much damage it does here on a critical hit. About 9.2 million damage if we round up there, and so that's not super good. Let's go ahead and switch on over to a Longbow, for example. You can see that the Longbow does almost 15 million damage there. So, huge difference between those two weapons. The Longbow is obviously another unique sniper that cannot spawn without a scope, or with a scope, excuse me. It always spawns without one. But it's not just the Longbow that outdamages it. There are some other weapons as well. We can take a look here. I think I scrolled too far at how a Snider's going to do. So if we get rid of the one-shot, one-kill with a Snider here, you can see that we're getting, combined here, about 9.5 million damage. So even a regular Snider is outdoing the damage of an Elephant Gun, the effective damage of an Elephant Gun. And yes, we are using a Fire Bone of the Ancients relic, and so that's obviously increasing the damage. But the Snider comes in all elements, and so if we were fighting corrosive enemies, we could be using a corrosive Snider and a corrosive relic. There is no non-elemental Bone of the Ancients relic, though, and so that makes it really hard to get more damage out of the Elephant Gun when you really kind of want a Bone of the Ancients to make the Elephant Gun a lot more usable with your Deception skill. So the Elephant Gun's kind of in a tough place there, and obviously it's also in a tough place because it can't spawn with the scope, and that means it cannot get this this base damage accessory, which is going to be the best bonus for the Elephant Gun if it was available, because it would be boosting its best stat. Instead, we have to go with the Tum Tum prefix, or the critical hit damage accessory, which is simply not as good. Let's go ahead and apply the community patch here and see how it's going to change for this weapon. The patch notes for the community patch on the Elephant Gun simply say that the base damage was increased by 200%. Before we do that real quick, though, I do want to show you where the crosshair is. In Deception, you always have a crosshair, but you can see there that it is a little bit above that flat plane there on the Elephant Gun. And so you would expect that the Elephant Gun would shoot right across that plane, but it's actually shooting a little bit above that. And so you have to adjust for that when using this weapon. And I might not be very good at that. I don't have a lot of practice with it, but if you use the elephant gun a lot, maybe you would be better at that. So the patch is applied now. We'll go ahead and go back in and take a look at how the elephant gun has changed. The base damage on the card should just be a lot higher. So we'll see now that it has almost 3 million damage on the card, which is huge. So we'll run down to the target dummy and see how that does real quick. Then we'll head back over to the Washburn Refinery and, run through the Washburn Refinery and hopefully do a lot better with the elephant gun than we were doing beforehand. So get rid of the one-shot, one-kill bonus there. And you can see that now it's dealing about 17.85 million damage per shot, which is huge. That's a lot bigger than it was doing beforehand. Now it's actually probably going to outdo the Longbow. Let's take a look at that there. So yeah, the Longbow is still at 15 million, and so the elephant gun actually outdoes it now, which I think is a big benefit. The elephant gun should be the most damaging, straight up shooting sniper on a single shot. That's kind of its gimmick. That's why it has such a low fire rate. So now that that actually happens, I think that that's a huge benefit for the weapon. Let's take a look at what the Gemstone Snider does. Obviously, Gemstone weapons got a boost. So now the Gemstone Snider does just under 11 million. So definitely outdoing the Gemstone Snider now. I'm curious though, does it actually outdamage the Lyuda in a sweet spot? I know this is kind of ridiculous, but I want to check it out real quick. So here's the Lyuda. Let's try to get to the sweet spot for the Lyuda. So it looks like the Lyuda is doing just under 15 million damage on a sweet spot shot, which is, really, really good, especially considering the fire rate that this weapon has. Looks like it can do 15.5 if you adjust a little bit. So, the elephant gun is still not going to be like a top tier sniper because this can outdo it or almost match it at least, and it has a crazy fire rate. So you can see that a sweet spot on the Lyuda is going to almost match the elephant gun. It looks like 15.5 million there to 17.8. There's a huge fire rate discrepancy between the Lyuda and the elephant gun, though. You can see big difference there. Regardless, let's switch on over to a Pimpernel just real quick and show that, a sweet spot from the Pimpernel is still going to be very, very, very far ahead. So this is a Banberry Pimpernel. We could be using a barking one, but yeah, this is the fire rate damage accessory. And you can see that we don't need to scoot back for this. You can see that there's a 32 million there. There's a couple other, damage numbers that are flying out, but basically, the Pimpernel is going to very, very well outdamage it, assuming you get the sweet spot on your critical hits. There's a 35 million over here, a 33 million over there, and then a 7 million here. So you can see how that all adds up to make the Pimpernel still outdamage it by a wide margin. But the elephant gun is straight shooting, so on a straight shot from the Pimpernel, it obviously wouldn't deal that much damage. You have to get the sweet spot. And on some enemies, that's difficult. Regardless, we're going to run over here to the Washburn Refinery and see if the elephant gun is at least viable now. So before the elephant gun, obviously it could get critical hits, and it could get one-shot, one-kills if you had Deception and Slag, but there are a bunch of other guns that had a lot lower damage on the card that would do the same thing. We're going to start here with this guy. We're not going to slag him or kunai him just because he's kind of our control. So you can see there that the first shot already did a lot more damage. The second shot, he's almost down to half health. We might be able to kill him in 4. Nope, it's going to take a 5th. Not a big deal. So 5 shots to kill that guy there. That is not that many, especially compared to the 8 that it was beforehand. It will probably get 1 shots in here. We would hope so, obviously, because it could beforehand. So something would have to go really wrong if it all of a sudden stopped doing that. Now, against power loaders and enemies where you basically have to kind of hope that your shot goes through, it's going to be a much less effective weapon than something with a more standard fire rate. Obviously, with the Deception active, we can see right where that crosshair is, and so that's a huge benefit to this weapon because it doesn't aim where normal snipers do when you aim down the sights. So because of that, it's a little bit more difficult to use, and so against some enemies, when we have Deception available, we definitely want to use it for that. We're doing okay though here. We are actually making some use of Critical Ascension because Critical Ascension is a little bit easier to maintain these days with the community patch. It doesn't tick off quite as quickly, so that's pretty exciting and a good thing for this weapon, definitely. Try to shoot this guy before he walks too far away. Excellent. We'll get one more critical hit on him before going to the badass. That's good stuff. So with 15 stacks of Critical Ascension, I assume it'll tick down to 14 or 13 before we kill this guy. But with more than 10 stacks of Critical Ascension, I would expect that we one-shot that dude. And we did. So that's good stuff. There's another guy down here. This weapon is not super good for long range because of that aiming quirk that it has. But we are actually able to get critical hits with it. And I'd assume that you would definitely be able to get a lot of critical hits with it more consistently if you had more practice with this weapon than I do. I really don't have that much practice with this weapon because, like I said, this weapon was really disappointing to me. And so I don't have that much time with it because I didn't enjoy using it. Now that it actually does a significant amount of damage on a shot, it's kind of a lot more fun to use. In a bad way here against this power loader. Perfect. So getting some critical hits on these exploders, it doesn't look like I have enough damage to take them out without slag yet. But getting some damage on them to kind of maintain my critical hit stacks. Excellent. So we can actually kill them when we have the one-shot, one-kill bonus, but I don't always have that. This weapon takes forever to reload, so it makes using one-shot, one-kill a little bit harder to do. And that's one of Zero's more potent sniping skills, obviously. Cool. So when you do have one-shot, one-kill active, because that's boosting base damage, which is the thing that this weapon is the most proficient at, I think that that is, you know, one of the optimal case scenarios for this weapon. Much more likely to get a one-shot, one-kill that way. Or get the most out of the weapon, at least. Cool. Looks like there's another exploder coming. It's actually strong enough to kill these exploders now as they run to us, assuming we hit our shots, which is good. Try to get rid of that guy's arm because obviously it's dangerous. Speaking of dangerous, there's another one of them over here. Oops, I really wanted that shot without slag, but didn't work. Cool. So we'll get ready to kill this guy. We have a little bit more critical ascension than we did before. But I don't have deception. Looks like it did about half of his health. So that's pretty good. Even hit that critical hit even though I wasn't exactly sure where to aim. That's good stuff. We've got some grenades now for the next room. I have been using some grenades with this weapon more liberally than I, do on some other snipers because I want to make sure my shots are counting. We could have used a rogue comm instead of a legendary sniper comm with this gun, just because that would boost its deficiency and try to make it less of a weakness. But what I wanted to do was boost this weapon's main strength because that's kind of its gimmick and it's what I wanted it to do. So that's why we're using the legendary sniper comm here and kind of having to suffer through that extremely poor fire rate. Cool. Killed the exploder. A little bit hard to see some of these critical hits, so definitely nice to have deception for that one. Perfect. Uh-oh, we're in a bad way with that gun. Okay, so we might not be able to get a second wind here, but we're going to try. Oh, we did hit that critical hit, so that's good stuff. Alright, so I think that's the guy who took us down, or at least did the majority of the damage on our way down. This weapon is definitely more dangerous to use than your average sniper. If you miss a shot, you are punished for it much, much more than you are with the average sniper. And then, in addition to that, you're more likely to miss with this weapon because it doesn't use the normal aiming reticle that you're used to, which is going to be with that scope on it. And then beyond that, without the scope, it seems to be a little bit misaligned. I can adjust for it, but it's definitely harder than if I didn't have to adjust for it. Try not to kunai myself there. Unfortunately, that guy jumped down because he wasn't aggro to me yet. Not a big deal. We'll kill him here. So even though Critical Ascension's much easier to maintain, we still haven't worked up like a normal amount of Critical Ascension as we've gone through this Washburn Refinery. And that's because, well, you're still just not getting that many shots on enemies. It shoots super slowly, and when you do get shots on enemies, they die pretty quickly. So not a ton of opportunities to use with Critical Ascension, and so in that respect, it doesn't synergize well with probably Zero's best sniper boost, but it still does synergize pretty well with one shot, one kill. So, I mean, other than the reload speed being absolutely bunk, but that's okay. Get this guy slagged. Kill him. So at 20 or so stacks of Critical Ascension, it does one-shot slagged enemies, which is decent. You can get up to 20 stacks with this gun now. Definitely more difficult and cumbersome to use than your average sniper. There's no doubt about that. We still have this hot loader, 2 badass loaders, and Hurley, so we'll work our way towards that, and then there's going to be 2 standard loaders after that. So I would say that the elephant gun, to this point, hasn't really sucked this bad. It's still not that efficient of a sniper, but that's okay. It at least has a niche now that it actually outdoes your standard Sniper, and it outdoes even the Longbow and stuff on flesh enemies, which I think's really cool, because I think it should, you know? It's still not going to be like Pimpernel powerful, and it would be pretty cool if it was, but it's still not quite, you know, doesn't have that one shot, one kill potential, I guess. But it does okay. That's kind of cool how that guy died right in front of the scene there. We'll get ready to kill Hurley. Hurley has a ton of health, and so this will actually be one of the worst scenarios for the elephant gun. Obviously, it's not going to have enough damage to one-shot, one-kill this guy, I wouldn't imagine. We'll go ahead and get ready for it, though. Try. So we did knock off his arm there, which is good. We knocked off that other arm, but you can see 2 shots there, and he still has over a third of his health left. That's not that great. So we'll keep trying to shoot him there. Perfect. Now he's down to about half health. Those barrels are making it a little bit more difficult to see him, or to aim these shots at least. Cool. So now he's down to probably about a third of his health, and he's dead. So that's cool. It can still kill Hurley, but you know, it's not that powerful. It dropped a Manly Man shield here. The community patch has made it so that Hurley drops cool shit, which I think he should. You have to work through quite a bit of Washburn Refinery to get to Hurley. It would be cool if all the DLCs had a boss, you know, like that. I don't know. There are a lot of cool things that they could do in a future Borderlands game for loot that would make it a little bit better. So there's one more enemy here. We'll wait for Deception to come back so that we can hopefully get a one-shot, one-kill on him here. Perfect. Assuming that's a critical hit, he'll die for us. And so you can see that the elephant gun doesn't suck anymore, right? It's still not as good as like a normal sniper. There's really no reason why you would want to use this over like a more preferable Jakobs, like a Skull Masher or a Citrine Muckamuck, for example. But it still does okay, you know. It's got more damage than the Buffalo, so it definitely has its niche, which is a good thing. If I can find the elephant gun here, that would be a better thing. I've kind of lost it. There it is. So yeah, it does have a ton of damage, almost 3 million damage on the card. It's almost to where I think it should be, you know. I guess I'm saying that I wouldn't be offended at all if the community patch boosted the damage by even a little bit more, because that fire rate is still so atrocious. Perhaps we could have used a rogue comm instead of the sniper comm to make up for the fire rate a little bit, but that kind of takes away from the spirit of the weapon. Either way, the elephant gun doesn't necessarily suck anymore. It's just not that efficient. And so I think that's a huge bonus, because now this weapon isn't a total letdown, right? It's much more fun to use than it was beforehand, because it can actually be used somewhat efficiently. Obviously not as efficiently as other snipers, but it's viable now, which it wasn't before. And so I think that's a huge boost for the weapon. Shout out to the people who made the community patch there, Shadow Evil and company. But as always, guys, I do thank you very much for watching. I do appreciate it. If you haven't yet taken the time to subscribe, please do so. I'd appreciate that as well. Otherwise, I do hope to catch you next time. Bye, guys.